She was born a little bit on the small side, but she looked great. Her skin looked great.
She had a set of lungs.
Yeah, she screamed the way you'd expect. We took her home, and she had trouble feeding pretty much from day one. We could tell she had trouble swallowing, and she was having trouble holding food down.
At the end of her 8th month, she was so lethargic that it was frightening. And so we checked her into Medical City, which is a phenomenal hospital. We told the doctors, we're not leaving until you fix this. Until you figure out what's wrong.
We'll just be here forever.
We stayed there.
You're going to run tests and scans until you find something.
And so we did that for 23 days.
23 straight days she's in the hospital. Dr. Whiteman, at that first visit in October, when she's about 10 months old, tells us, based on everything I've read, everything you're telling me, everything I see from Amelia, and everything I see from my test results, I'm afraid she has a metabolism problem. I'm afraid she has a fat metabolism problem, but I cannot prove it.
I'm gonna celebrate with you that we can't find anything. But he said, I just have to tell you, she, I think, has a metabolic disorder that we just can't name. And he told us those are terminal. We were not giving up on her. And so we really fought and did everything that we could, and really entirely submissive to God's will for her as much as we could understand it. Then when he called us after that and said, I still can't find anything, I've done new testing and new everything, and you're saying that she's doing well on what I'm giving you, let's just go for it and go forward as much as we can.
But we held on to the hope that he couldn't prove it because it wasn't there.
Right.
And so we treated Amelia as if you had a horrific first 10 or 12 months of your life. You got no sleep, you got no nutrition. So you were dealt a bad hand, but we've figured out a diet you can handle, and gradually you're gonna work your way out of this.
We'd noticed kind of in February that she was getting thinner. We'd even noticed back in December she was getting thinner. But we just attributed that to her being 4, and you lose a lot of your baby fat at 4, all kids do. And also she was more active than she'd ever been in her life. We knew we needed to go take her in and weigh her. It is graphic, but it's real. She had started to lose control of her bowels, and we knew this wasn't just a normal virus. We knew this was something different. I remember being with her and my dad and taking her to the Gaylord. She loved walking around the Gaylord Texan. We had to change her clothes 3 times in the car. Everything, she was miserable. She was really unhappy, really didn't feel good. And it was a Wednesday, and I remember calling her, the man who had been her GI for a long time, and he was at that point kind of like a brother for as long as we'd known him. And I remember calling Jack and saying, Jack, this is what's going on with her. And he kept hemming and hawing and wanting to give me good news, and he couldn't. And so, he said, we can stabilize her, and we can do this, and we can do this. And I said, that's not what I'm asking you. I need to know if I'm right, that this is the end of her life. And is there anything that I'm telling you about her symptoms that is suggesting something to the contrary? And he said, very reluctantly, he said no. So
she called me at work.
I called him at work and said, come home, and we're gonna take Amelia to co-op one last time so she can say goodbye to her friends. We had the blinds partway up in her room, and it was so beautiful. It was a beautiful sunny day. She loved the days with the clear Texas blue skies and the cool wind. It would be such a disservice to God and such a disservice to Amelia.
Absolutely.
To say, we can't keep going forward. The death of a child is not something you get over. It's something that you get through if you're willing to work on getting through it. Grief, unfortunately, is this large monster that you can't go over, under, around. You have to go through, and it rears its ugly head times you don't expect it. But we have so many blessings that that's always where we come out.
Everything goes back to the cross for us. Everything goes back to the empty cross.
In the empty tube.
Everything goes back to the promise of where she is. That's the bedrock of our entire faith, and that's what has helped us get through this. From the moment we knew we were losing her, we kept focusing on that, and we kept talking to her about that. And that that central fact is huge for anybody who has to go through something like this. That's the number one thing I would encourage them to focus on, is think about the empty cross. Don't just look at it. Really think about that promise. Really think about our God knowing what you're going through. Our God lost a son. Our God knows what it's like to see a child suffer. Our God's right there with you. He did not promise us a pain-free life. He didn't offer us a perfect life. He didn't say we would always be comfortable, but he did offer us a companion. He said he would be with us every step of the way.
That does not mean we haven't had rough spots. It doesn't mean we haven't hurt a lot since she died. But, we've talked about it so much, and we don't wish her back in the state that she was in. That would be so unspeakably selfish and cruel that we have to deal with our own missing her in a different way. We cannot, in good conscience, wish her back, even if we weren't believers. You couldn't wish someone back. But being believers, you can't think of wishing her away from Jesus and away from paradise, where she can run and walk and sing and play with the other kids and do all these things that she couldn't do here. Like, are we Christians or not? We can be sad and we can grieve, and we have and we do. I mean, we both just had, we call them swoons. We both had really bad missing Amelia swoons in the last couple of weeks, where they just, your heart stops for a minute because you just can't breathe because you miss her so bad. Or you think about some aspect of her life that was so hard, and you just think of what a fighter she was and how she was such a great kid, and she never gave up, and she knew love every day of her life, and you think all these things and you have all these emotions. And then there's Jesus, who gets in the trenches with you and holds your hands and says, "It's okay, child, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. And I love you more than you know. And I love Amelia more than you loved her, and I know you loved her a lot. And she's with me, and she is in paradise." That prayer that you prayed for her to be healed, this is the answer.